Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football late Thursday night. Some massive news for the Alabama fans coming out of the recruiting trail. Four-star defensive lineman Vodney Cleveland committing to Alabama in the 2026 cycle. Now, this is big in my mind for a couple of different reasons. I want to start with an in-state kid. This was kind of a talking point that I didn't necessarily agree with, but it was a talking point in the recruiting community about Kalen DeBoer having to do a better job in the state of Alabama on the recruiting trail. For that reason, yeah, it's a massive win, right? Top 10 kid in the state in the 2026 cycle. I think, secondly, and probably more importantly, the defensive line position. Now, you go back to the 2025 cycle, the offensive line class is probably the best class that we see in the country in the 2025 cycle. That being said, Alabama, not as many bodies on the defensive line. I am guessing this is a position group that Alabama is going to really go after in 2026. So getting it off to a good start with one of the top defensive linemen that we see in the country is really big news for Alabama as well. The in-state recruiting, like, I'm not going to complain that much about, because you look at Alabama in that 2025 cycle, it's the number one recruiting class in the country. It's one of the better recruiting classes we've seen Alabama have in a while. I don't really care where the kids are coming from, just that you're getting the talent you need to go out and compete for SEC national championships. And Kalen DeBoer is absolutely doing that. Now, has it been a frustrating 2024 year for Alabama fans? Yeah, absolutely. Now, there might be some Alabama fans that disagree with this, but I'll say this. Look, I trust Kalen DeBoer. Like, the track record of him as a football coach is one of the best track records you can find in the country. I know that if you give Kalen DeBoer elite talent, he's going to put an elite product on the football field. There's been some frustrating games. There's been some growing pains as Kalen DeBoer has taken over this program. I don't really have any doubt that Kalen DeBoer is going to continue to get this Alabama team right. I think the big question mark that a lot of us had was, can Kalen DeBoer get it done on the recruiting trail? I think we know at the top end of the sport, it doesn't matter how good of a coach you are if you can't get the talent into the program. Kalen DeBoer has answered those critics and doubters in a massive way. That's the thing that I am most optimistic about, because you look at Kalen DeBoer and say that we know Kalen DeBoer is a really good head football coach. Yes, it's been frustrating at times in 2024, and yes, there might need to be some adjustments to the Alabama staff. But to know that he has the recruiting right at a program like Alabama, I think that's where you want to start. Now, I want to get into Vodney Cleveland, who is a really, really fun defensive lineman in this 2026 class, 6'3", 305. He is a freaky, freaky athlete with really good feet for the size and the play strength. Yeah, it's phenomenal. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of the film. Now, before we do, and as always, the Alabama fans, it's been a blast talking this program since Kalen DeBoer has taken over. The amount of support y'all continue to show, it means the absolute world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Going to be really exciting next couple of weeks, not only on the football field, but also on the recruiting trail. So appreciate you guys. Without further ado, let's get into Vodney Cleveland. Now, a 6'3", 305 in-state kid from Alabama. What stands out to me about Vodney Cleveland the most, the guy that I'm pretty familiar with, because my Michigan Wolverines were going after Vodney Cleveland as well, the athleticism for the size, it's special. I think that's why he's a top 50 national prospect, a consensus top 10 defensive lineman in this cycle. It's easy to find bodies that are big. It's a little harder to find bodies that are big, but also really, really good athletes. I think Vodney Cleveland's one that checks both of those boxes. And, you know, at 6'3", 305, a little bit short of the ground, plays with really, really good pad level, big time lower body strength. I mean, he kind of just does what he wants with opposing offensive linemen. This is a guy that I think can do both, right? He can do some of that dirty work, some of the two gapping and eating up double teams, and you're letting your linebackers kind of eat a little bit. But he can also be a very disruptive force that can get behind the backfield, tackles for loss and sacks. And again, it's kind of hard to find those bodies that can do it both. I think Vodney Cleveland can be that kind of guy. You dive into the film a little bit, and again, I think where you want to start is he is extremely, extremely powerful, working at that nose right here. And again, that's another thing I like, versatility. Has that nose body, but is athletic enough to play the three tech as well. You continue to roll through it, and he's just, I mean, kind of just walks offensive linemen right into the lap of quarterbacks. the power in this kid's hands, I think it's really special. And again, now we're going to see like a little stretch zone here. The movement skills. This guy, he's just got really good feet for that kind of size. Again, you play that back, it's actually going to be some play action. Really, really good feet, like tracking the quarterback, getting active along the lines of scrimmage. Those are some of the reps that stand out to me. Like, you kind of know this kid's powerful, just pulls that offensive lineman right kind of facing the dirt there. His ability to get off blocks and run the line of scrimmage, again, that like block destruction, getting off blocks and then running the line of scrimmage and making plays. The hands, the power in the hands, so they're like cinder blocks, and I think that's what you like a lot about this kid. Again, just kind of ragdolls guys. That's kind of what you want in an interior defensive lineman, and why I think this is such a big commitment for Alabama is you go back to the 2025 class, and it is a phenomenal recruiting class, headlined by one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Really, really good on the offensive line, right? Mike Carroll, Ty Haywood, a guy like Jackson Lloyd, who I absolutely love. But when you start scrolling down and say, not a ton of big bodies on the defensive line that Alabama was bringing in 2025, which is okay. But you got to make sure you're getting those bodies in the next class, because you don't want to go 2 classes without getting enough big bodies on the inside of the defensive line, because we know, one, it's a very important position in the SEC. More importantly, you want depth. And again, you scroll down this list and say it kind of lacks some of those big bodies in the middle of the defensive line. What you're seeing Alabama do, I think, is, hey, we're going to go after guys like Vodney Cleveland and really fill it up in the 2026 class. They're off to a good start. A lot of names on their boards. Again, the Alabama brand is still there, and we're seeing Kalen DeBoer use it. It might look a little bit different. I know some Alabama fans have been frustrated, which rightfully so. I'm not telling Alabama fans not to be frustrated with some of the things that you've seen it. There's been times where Alabama has underperformed to the talent. We've seen Kalen DeBoer maximize talent time and time again at every single stop he's been at. I don't think Alabama is going to be any different. Yeah, there might be some growing pains of taking over a program like Alabama, and Kalen DeBoer might have to adjust to that. But there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to see Kalen DeBoer do just that. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Hopefully y'all have a good Halloween. I know it got better for the Bama fans. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.